Hi, today we are in conversation with Mr. Prashant Singh, CEO of Blue Planet Solutions. Prashant, please tell us something about you, how you became a waste management professional and your motivating force behind it.
Sure, pleasure to be here. So my background, I have been in living in US for almost 20 years. For the most part of the decade between 2000 and 2018, and we have done various ventures in the past in terms of consolidation and roll up, and this adventure for Blue Planet started in 2017 because we wanted to do something for the environment and something for the region where the problem has been never been addressed before in the way that we are targeting the sector for, and where the impact would be phenomenal both for our environment, our societies, and our employees at large. So that is where Blue Planet was born in 2017, and we started the company in Singapore, and currently we are present in half a dozen countries, India being our groundbreak and one of the important levers in our growth so far.
Can you tell me something about Blue Planet Solutions and its missions driving the regional sustainability through integrated waste management?
Sure. So Blue Planet was formed with the vision of zero to landfill, right? So I think what we believe in so far, the sector has been very fragmented, and we have been any location, I mean a waste that gets generated from your or my household, typically we had between 3 to 5, 6 players involved in the entire value chain. So, and because there are 6 owners to a problem, the problem never gets solved, right? So that is what we want to disrupt by having an end-to-end integrated platform for waste management. And we truly believe in the process of upcycling, and we treat waste as a resource where there is still a value, inherent value in the waste, which has to be read upon, especially with the whole net zero and climate change initiatives, where we need to replace virgin materials as much as possible and focus on renewable energy in a much larger way than before. So our goal is to ensure that we are able to build a very robust sustainability and climate change platform which delivers value to our stakeholders and environment.
So how do you ensure consistent service quality and operational efficiency while being present in multiple countries?
Yeah, sure. So I think, see, that is an important aspect for us as an organization, right? And that is where we bring a lot of technology-driven execution, be it, and when I mean technology, I mean technology which can be used for upcycling of waste resource, like organic waste to biogas, plastic to fuel, inert waste to block walls, and so on and so forth. But also important for us is to build a back-end IT support where we can focus on traceability and trackability of the entire value chain as much as possible. So that is an important differentiator for us as a waste management company, and that gives us an edge when we go out and scale up our technology and offerings into different countries and bring more standardization across the board within the group.
So you are currently present in India and Singapore.
We are present in half a dozen countries. We have in Singapore, is the holding company based out of Singapore. We collect, transport, and process more than 1/3 of Singapore's waste. In India, we are significant players in landfill mining business, where we have processed more than 9 million tons of waste over the last 5 years. In decentralized waste to energy, we have more than 100 plus plants in India, and around 150 plants across 15 different countries we have sold our solutions in. As far as our physical presence, we are present in half a dozen countries in Singapore, India, Malaysia, Vietnam, UK, and through a partner in Switzerland.
So can you elaborate on the plastic to fuel technology and the impact it has had till date?
Yeah. So that is a very important aspect of the entire waste stream mix that we cater the plastic to fuel technology, and that was also covered by the Planet Healers program by the Discovery Channel. So what we focus on is, because India is very, very efficient as far as the good quality plastic is concerned, like HDPEs and PET bottles and stuff like that. But what remains out in the landfills and in our neighborhoods is the low value plastics, like the MLPs, multi-layer plastics, or chips packets and stuff like that. And our technology takes that as an input using a technology called TCD, thermocatalytic depolymerization, where we convert that into a polyfuel which can be replaced for the different kind of mechanism for incinerators, for LDO replacements, and so on and so forth. And it can be used in the rural sectors also. So we have seen some good traction there, and it helps us to complete the loop for the waste management for us, where the plastic gets converted into a valuable resource, which otherwise would be taking hundreds of years to decompose in our landfills or in our environment. We process it and we help them to create better life or to reduce environmental impact.
So your company is the largest alternative fuel supplier in India, and what are the sustainable fuel solutions you provide and their contributions in reducing the carbon emissions?
No, this is a very important aspect, and not only in India. I think we are one of the largest in Asia as we speak. We just crossed a million tons of RDF, 1.2 million actually, of RDF, which is refuse derived fuel, to be replaced, the fossil fuel to be replaced by RDF. And we have partnerships with 53 cement plants in India, and we are already exploring to export this technology and this process to a couple of other countries in the region and in developed countries also. Why it's important is because there is a government mandate in India where the TSR, the thermal substitute ratio, have to be managed by the industries which are polluting a little bit more, where they have a more negative impact, and replace it with the much more sustainable fuel source out there. So that is where the current number is 8%, and there are talks to increase that to more than 20, 25, 30%, which will help us not only replace the fossil fuel like coal and others with this RDF from landfills, but also to the positive impact is also can be calculated by reducing the mining of those coal or other fossil fuels in terms of a longer term impact that we can create. So this is a very, very important aspect as far as the climate change is concerned, and that is where we are very, very bullish in terms of how the sector and a nation can make a positive contribution towards net zero.
So what kind of solutions you provide? You provide energy, gas?
For the RDF part of it, we are working on replacing fossil fuel to begin with. We are also working on a few partnership, like we signed one with Vika Cement of France and Bharti Siemens, where we will be partnering with them to give them high quality RDF by setting up co-processing plants in their premises, which will be one of the first in India. And apart from that, we are also talking about upcycling of where it can be used, RDF can be used to make boards, to make pallets, and so on and so forth. But the whole idea, as I referred earlier, is upcycling and zero to landfill. So as much as possible, we try to maximize the utilization of that resource in some shape or form as much as possible.
Right now, how do you use your RDF?
So right now, as I mentioned, I think RDF is used by cement plants to replace their fossil fuel to begin with. We increase the GCV of the RDF by making granules, which can also be a solution out there. We have already piloted making boards out of RDF, which can be used for various making of furnitures, making benches that we are already working on in India. we can also use a high density RDF to be used as pellets, which can be a replacement for virgin wood, which is used for transportation and stuff like that. So multiple usage can be explored and are being explored by us, which will be much better utilized of a resource which was earlier lying in landfills.
Okay, so what's your opinion on plastic waste and ban on single-use plastic? Does it hamper with your plastic to fuel technology?
Absolutely not. It doesn't hamper because the kind of the waste generation that is happening in India, which will only grow 3 to 5 times over the next 20 years, we don't see any dearth of opportunity. We don't treat that as a threat, but that's an opportunity for us to partner for the right solution, sustainable solution out there. Single-use plastic ban is definitely a step in the right direction. But what would be important for us to understand the availability of alternate solutions, right? So the impact and the enforcement can only be achieved if we can provide, or the government or the sector players like us, who can provide alternate solution to plastic, and have there are new startups and innovations coming up which can help us replace the ban on single-use plastics. But filling that gap with alternatives will be very, very important for us to see how much impact we can create with this single-use plastic ban.
Okay. Can you share details about the decentralized waste management plant in Greater Noida and its role in advancing the waste management practices in the region, and what kind of impact you are hoping through this facility?
Sure. So in Greater Noida, the project that we have built is for one of the India's first truly decentralized integrated waste management solution. Okay, so what does that mean is we will be reaching out to 11,000+ households in one of the clusters in Greater Noida using CNG vehicles. Okay, so which will be run on the energy being generated by the collection which will be done by those vehicles. We have bought 12 of those vehicles with proper segregation compartments for dry and wet waste, for e-waste, for domestic hazardous waste. There is a small area where you can put that, and what it does is we provide IC activities, we promote source segregation and so on and so forth, and they go and collect the waste, bring it to our facility at our waste processing plant, where we have deployed our own technologies. Like organic waste gets converted into biogas, which is further scrubbed, cleaned, and put in cascades, along with the pumping station at the site, where we use the same CNG to be filled in the vehicles which will go the next day. So that's a true circular economy solution as far as the CNG is concerned. We have a plastic to fuel plant which is being installed there. We have a manure shed, which is a byproduct of our AD process, the CBG plant that we have established. We also have a domestic non-hazardous waste incinerator out there, because this was conceptualized during the COVID period. So that is where we have installed that too, which will be used, where we will be using the plastic to fuel output as an input to run that incinerator that we would have. So that is the end goal is again the same, where more than 90% of the waste that we collect in the stable stage will get processed or upcycled out there, and only 10%, which is inerts and stuff, will go to the landfill. So by this process, we will avoid more than 7,000 to 10,000 tons of waste being taken to the landfill every year over the next 7 to 10 years. So it's almost the impact is more than 100,000 tons of waste being avoided to the landfill, leaving aside the whole negative impact of carrying the waste to 30, 40, 50 kilometers away using bigger vehicles and the carbon emissions and stuff like that. So very unique model. We have seen some tremendous traction by the municipalities and government to support this kind of decentralized model, which can help not only minimization of landfills, burden on the landfills, but also create a positive impact on our net zero journey.
Okay. So, what kind of health facilities do you employ in your plants, and what kind of automation you use?
Yeah, so in India, we have, as I said, we have fair amount of presence. So our workforce varies depending on the time of the year, varies between 1,500 to 1,800 employees in India that we have. And we truly believe in social inclusion, financial inclusion, and taking care of our employees, right? So we don't want to, and that is one area which is highly underserved in the sector, because there is a lot of more than 1 million to 2 million folks workforce is engaged in the waste management sector in India, but still we have not been able to make a dent as far as their quality of life is concerned, as far as their minimum wages and stuff like that. So we do provide, take pride in making sure that we scale up the sector by providing them dignity of labor, social inclusion, and so on and so forth, to make sure that they get their pride back in the work what they are doing, and still able to make a positive impact on their quality of life, as well as scaling up their life in general. So like for example, Sigma, one of the portfolio companies that we have, we are the largest landfill mining biomining player in India, where we provide them with accommodation, we provide them with their food for all 3 times. We have regular medical checkups being done on a quarterly basis for our employees, and so on and so forth. So these are small steps that we take to ensure that people engage with their work a little bit more than a typical, and that can only be achieved if we give them the respect and the dignity that they deserve, and the sector has been badly needing.
So while handling the waste, what kind of protections they use?
Yes. So that, again, that's a part of our SOP that we have in terms of providing them with their proper tools to do their job. We provide them training on a regular basis. Every site has an ESG and EHS person who takes care of their safety aspects, of their well-being, of the compliances, of their environmental mandates that we follow. So that is something which is very, very important for us, because if we take care of our employees, the employees will take care of us as an organization. So we truly believe in that, and we have seen some very good results with the commitments that we have towards our employees.
Do you also use automation to handle waste?
We do. So we are bringing a lot of automation, both through our in-house R&D teams that we are building capacity in-house, and also we continue to our hunger towards learning more. Right, so learning new innovative solutions from abroad, trying to customize them to be able to fit that to our Indian and through the regional expansion plans that we have. So it's a mix of both in-house capabilities as well as the R&D and refinement. So I'll give you an example for our landfill mining business. The first plant that we installed in 2016-17, the capacity was only 4 tons per day. Right now we are operating at 1,000 tons per day, the same plant and machinery from one line. So we have been able to continuously refine with much more rigorous processes, refined outputs, so that we can create a quality product out there.
Okay. So you have completed 17 biomining projects.
Yes.
And how does this process contribute to waste reclamation and environmental remediation?
Sure. So I think by the time we share the data, we already crossed 20 plus landfill sites now.
Okay.
So that is one important aspect, because because of the SBM2 guidelines, with the commitment that our honorable PM Modi ji has given as far as the landfill clearance over the next 2, 3, 4 years. There is a lot of push from the policy side in terms of making an impact out there. So we have been able to make some significant standardization as far as possible in terms of process is concerned, right? So it's basically divided into three parts. One is the pre-stabilization. How do you pre-stabilize the waste? By making windrows, by making sure there is not it's ready for the processing, which is, and the second part is the segregation, where we build our own technology, fully owned by us, developed, fabricated by indigenously in India. And the third aspect is, because your quality of the segregation is phenomenal, we are able to dispose of the waste and aggregates which comes out, be it RDF, be it coarse soil, fine soil, and so on and so forth, to places which can avoid, let's say in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, India's largest landfill mining project which just got completed. We partnered with the Forest Department of Tamil Nadu, where they are using our soil from landfill to use it for afforestation. Okay, very, very powerful story, because otherwise landfill will remain there for many decades, but because of this mining process, we are able to make positive impact to the environment. We use that for road construction. We can use it for quarry filling, right, which has been a very important aspect. We are experimenting about refining it more to increase that quality to which can be used for replace sand mining and stuff like that. So multiple new R&D initiatives we have in pipeline, which will ensure the whole value maximization from the waste resources continues to be our main objective.
And what the biomining projects, where are they actually based? Are they in the urban areas, rural areas, or semi-urban?
See, I think from the government is pushing to clear all across the board, be it metros, tier 1, 2 cities, or rurals. But I think where we can make that most profound impact would be in the tier 1 and metros, right? Because there the population density is much larger. The environmental impact, the negative and positive, will be exponential compared to rural areas. But so far, I mean, last time I checked, we had around 2,800 plus landfill sites with a population of more than 100,000 plus city. Okay, so right now I think we less than, I would say, 5 to 10% have been worked upon today. So we still have a long way to go. But at least what I would believe, that the kind of standardization which is required for the sector to scale up, we need a lot more progress there, right? So because waste being a state subject, but the guidelines coming from center, there can be difference of how they interpret the rules, the guidelines, and the processes. So a lot of standardization as far as landfill mining is concerned, right? So for example, the quality of the aggregates, what is there, are you meeting those guidelines before, are they there is no heavy metals, there is no hazardous material, and no plastics out there, or within the limits what is approved by CPCB and stuff. Those kind of guidelines and those kind of compliance ecosystem has to be made to make sure that we are not only solving one problem, but while doing that we are not creating 10 others. So a good balance and good compliance, because those are the things which will be very important for our journey towards net zero, right? So if we are so focused on making a positive impact, and we become lenient on the compliances, we are creating a much larger problem for our future generation than solving what we have at hand today.
Talking about landfill mining in urban areas, what do you think about the Gazipur landfill? Can it be managed?
Absolutely, it can be. I think we have made some progress there. I think government has issued tenders. There are people who are working on that landfill site. But I think, again, I'll bring to the same point. I mean, we are solving one problem where that eyesore should disappear, right? So we should not be working towards just making it disappear, but making it disappear in a sustainable and compliant manner. So that the second aspect of things is more important, I would say, than actually making it disappear, right? So because that is where I would sincerely hope and request the right authorities to play an important role, so that we are able to conserve our environment for future generations, rather than the companies compromising on the compliance and the quality of the aggregates being disposed all over the nearby areas, and creating a much larger problem for our future generations out there.
What have been your contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals?
So we are, as the SDG has been our guiding force since beginning, and both directly and indirectly we contribute to 15 of the 17 SDGs in some form. So we do consider that as the very good guiding star for any company to operate in, and to make sure that there are some positive, tangible and measurable contributions can be observed if you are able to align to few of the goals, and make sure that we are able to track that and bring that from top to bottom in terms of the commitment towards SDGs, in terms of making honest efforts towards meeting or contributing positively towards those SDGs. So we are very, very bullish. We are already, because of it's such a high powerful impact sector that we are in, we continue to make positive impacts across the value chain there.
And what are you hoping for COP28? What are you hoping for the COP28 to do some new things?
See, I think COP28, we are very, very hopeful that we should be able to, at least for a country like us, India and developing countries, I think the biggest challenge would come from the transition financing, right? In terms of how that transition towards renewables will come from, what kind of new technologies that can be adopted and customized for our region. Okay, and the adoption of that transition, how will it get financed? Right, so those are the 2-3 very, very important critical aspects, right? I mean, they not for a country like India, where we will continue to grow at 6, 7, 8% over the next 2 decades, and we still committing for a net zero by 2070. It's a very, very powerful statement and commitment from our government. But I think it's a journey. We need to create a balance between the two, the growth of a developing country, as well as making sure that we are able to deliver to our net zero commitments will be a very, very interesting balancing act that we need to do as a country moving forward.
So we see a lot of awareness campaigns on segregation of waste and disposing of waste, but people usually don't segregate their waste before throwing out. So what's your opinion on that, and how can it be changed?
No, this is a very, very important aspect for our sector, and one of the bigger challenges for that has been of the ecosystem, how to address that behavioral change of source segregation, right? I mean, I myself, when I relocated back from US, very, very passionate, right? We started segregating and stuff like that, but the moment the lady came in the morning, in front of my eyes, she used to put everything in one, and then where it goes, no one knows, right? So we need to build that ecosystem of segregated waste collection, very, very important, because otherwise the purpose, it's a lost cause from day one, right? Now, having said that, if we are able to build that ecosystem, which is what we are propagating in Greater Noida, if you are able to do that, I think the second aspect is because there is a government mandate where the source segregation and penetration of that IEC activities is on the municipalities to make sure that source segregation is done on a regular basis. So that is important. The moment we build that ecosystem and municipalities start enforcing that with the alongside with partners like us to make sure that we have that ecosystem build up, and we are working with municipalities to do that source segregation. We do IC activities, we do reaching out to schools and colleges, right? Very, very important aspects of the mechanism of penetrating that source segregation into their homes. And that is the reason we run a program called Blue Nudge, which is catered to young youths between 4th, 5th graders to 12th grade and first, second year college students, in terms of teaching them about source segregation, sustainability, climate change, waste management, and so on and so forth. And we have already reached more than 1 million kids in Delhi NCR region in that journey, and our goal is to reach 10 million kids over the next 4 to 5 years to make sure they when they reach to their homes and stuff, we are able to make some real profound impact as far as source segregation and their awareness is concerned out there.
You can source segregate the waste, like you said, at home, but when the waste collector comes, he usually keeps all the waste together.
Yes.
The municipalities also send out vans to collect the waste, so they put the waste in only one basket. So how can it change?
So the biggest driver would be, as I mentioned earlier, the whole ecosystem has to be built up, and where we need to focus more on the processing aspect of things, right? Because when we emphasize and be disciplined about processing is where we will focus on the quality of the waste. Right, so the quality of the waste has to be emphasized only and can be leveraged correctly if we are deploying technology in the process, in terms of there should be no plastics in organic, for example, if we are going for biogas, which will hinder the process. So we need to bring people to see this is how it negatively impacts the process if you don't segregate, and so on and so forth. So technology where we are still processing, we are still catching up. We have a long way to go, and that will also help us reduction on and the pressure on the landfill sites, rather than just dumping it on the landfills.
Do you think that in urban areas installing waste plants, waste collection plants, like in CP you have a plant to put your bottles, plastic bottles inside, so that kind of thing, can it be done in urban areas, in household areas?
No. So I think no, household might be a tough one, but at least bulk generators, right? People like communities, like RWAs and stuff. Absolutely, I think that is something which, unfortunately, we always compare the whole cleanliness, sanitation with the developed countries, right? But but what we also need to understand is the level of awareness what they have, the level of commitment what consumers like you and me live on a day-to-day life out there is very, very different, right? I mean, in future, the moment we build that ecosystem for a sustainable waste management solution out there, we believe the model of polluters to pay will come in, has to be enforced in India, right? So where if we are able to if we are not, I'm not doing a decent job of segregating and giving it to the right people and stuff, it should be where it comes at a cost, right? Where I need to pay for the waste that I generate, and that is where the sustainability, financial sustainability of ecosystems will come in, which is there in the developed countries, where you have to support that ecosystem by us, by the consumers ourselves, rather than depending on municipalities, because that this problem is set to grow much larger over the next 10-20 years. So unless we solve that commercially and make it balanced in terms of the financial investment from global players, it is a capital intensive industry. So then attracting the right funds and capital would be a little difficult. We need to solve that problem apart from the whole ESG aspects being taken care also.
Do you feel that if a penalty is imposed on people who are throwing waste on roads, will it have an impact in India?
See, India always good or bad, has been working on the carrot and stick model, right? I think that is sometimes you need to add it with some carrots. Sometimes you might have to enforce with a stick. But I think that is more like a phase 2 of it, right? I mean, we as concessionaires, players like us, and the government and municipalities, all of us as stakeholders need to come up with the right solution approach and build that ecosystem first, right? And then we enforce them on a slow basis to support that ecosystem, right? Then we can talk about the third step can be the penalty mechanism, where we have the ecosystem, we have given you time, we have done the IEC, and you are still not following the rules, is where the penalty angle will come eventually. But I think before that, we are still have a long journey in terms of making sure the whole ecosystem gets to a level which is much more relevant for the consumers to enforce the penalty aspect of it.
So, do you think the dump sites which release a lot of methane, do you think that it can be mined and stored for use?
Very good opportunity, very good question there. So so methane, which is more than 21 times more harmful than carbon dioxide, okay, and hence it makes it very important to tackle the methane being going to the environment. And landfills are unfortunately one of the key contributors of methane into the environment. So methane capture, definitely there is a possibility of exploring that. There are few projects in the developed world which have been experimenting it. We as an organization are in the process of doing a pilot on that methane capture and trying to see how we can bottle it, cascade it, and use it for further for better usage rather than just leaving it for the environment. Mm-hmm. So hopefully in the next less than a year we will have a solution which we can provide to our customers in India very soon.
Okay. What are your upcoming projects or something in R&D upcoming in India?
See, of course, one of the important challenges in India is, you have been talking about the source segregation, but source segregation will take time, right? So we need to build capacity and capability in-house in terms of segregation of waste. So that is an important aspect, I would say. And in that, how to customize that technology as far as Indian waste stream mix, because for example, I mean, the moisture content in Indian waste can vary from 30% to maybe 80-90% on rainy season, right? So how can machines be refined to address those kind of challenges will be an important aspect for us. The second thing is the whole upcycling piece, right? How we are able to make sure we can create better solutions for the raw material that we get, right? So which can be much longer usability and runway for extending their lifespan, should be, like as I said, increasing the quality of the soil so it can be used as a topsoil replacement or for afforestation and stuff. So those are the real tangible impacts that we are able to create to our environment and to our for people living at large. So multiple R&D activities are underway. RDF we touched upon earlier, that is again a huge challenge and for the industry, but we treat that as a huge opportunity, right? So if we continue to make sure we are able to refine and make better solutions around RDF, it will surely we will be able to expand. So this might be one of the first times in India where an indigenously developed technology and a process in the waste management sector has been matured to a level where we will be exporting and and leveraging that technology in developing and developed countries. Like, so we are exploring some opportunities in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in UK and Europe also, where we can make huge amount of positive impact by leveraging the landfill mining business that we have.
Okay. And what is the energy generation through your company? How much electricity or gas you generate throughout India?
So see, I think electricity, the energy generation is because most of these plants are owned by our customers, because we sell that as a product, as an EPC. So we don't get that data, unfortunately, because that's owned by them. But through the journey, what we have seen is on a daily basis, we process almost 25,000 tons of waste a day. Across those 5-6 countries that we have, and on a year so far we have processed almost 11 plus million tons of waste out there, and avoided around 6 to 7 million tons of CO2 emissions going into the environment. And our goal by 2030 is to reach between 30 to 40 million tons of CO2 emissions being avoided, which is around 3 to 4% of our nation's commitment towards, which is avoiding 1 billion tons of CO2 emissions. So which is still fairly significant as far as our impact, positive impact, and the contribution toward the environment is concerned from us.
Are you also working towards carbon credits, and what's your take on that?
See, carbon credit is an important and critical phenomena for infra project, right? In terms of making sure that people get some support in some form, so that we can facilitate much larger and scaled up projects in the waste management and climate change aspect of it. But India also has recently announced an initiative where we will be able to build a market or an ecosystem around carbon credits, but it's still in the initial stages out here. It will be very encouraging to see if it evolves and goes to a level where it gets on the standardized global parameters out there. But we see there has to be a lot of rigor to be brought in by the policy makers and by compliance mechanisms that government needs to mandate as a framework, so that people get the trust and the comfort on the legitimacy of those carbon credits, right? So that is the whole traceability and trackability, which I mentioned earlier, very, very important. And that will help us scale up the game, where we can compete on a global market. As far as, because it's all about the authenticity, how you can validate and verify the data for carbon credits, which will give you the right value monetization for those carbon credits. Otherwise, I mean, the kind of range varies dramatically. It's very, very dynamic. So unless and until we get our acts together as far as the trackability and traceability of those carbon credits in a scientific manner, I think we will lose a very big opportunity that we have in front of us.
Okay, so what do you think in terms of government policy? Do you feel there could be some improvements to help out this sector and grow further?
No, absolutely. See, I think with the kind of progress we have made over the last 7-8 years, we have come on a right trajectory, right, in terms of SBM 2016 rules which were there. Then we had the 2019 addendums, we had e-waste rules, we had plastic waste rules, and so on and so forth. SBM 2.0, which got inaugurated last year. I think there are many good sprinkles of those policy interventions, but what we need to be mindful of, there has to be a lot of tailwind that we need to build for the sector if we really have to make an impact, right? As far as renewables is concerned, I think a lot of focus has been going on for electricity part of it, right? Or we are talking about solar and wind aspect of it, but there is a big growth opportunity that is lying in front of our eyes as far as the municipal solid waste, where we will increase that 60 million tons going up to 150 million tons over the next 20 years, right? So that is a huge resource. If we don't get the standardization and the best practices in place, I think that would be a big loss, not only for us as the sector, but us as a nation, because there is at one point in time we need to look for alternate resources apart from as we call renewable. So apart from the solar and the wind and other aspects, I think we need to look for alternate mechanisms of that feedstock which can help us support that gap that we are looking at.
Do you feel if India installs compressed biogas plants in urban pockets, that will reduce the LPG import of India?
Absolutely. I think that is where the goal is, right? I think that is where the government is so bullish about building the CGD, the centralized gas grid infrastructure, right? I mean, we have been investing lakhs of crores into that by partnering with both PSUs, Indian Oil, BPCL, HPCL, and with private players like Adani, Reliance, and everybody. So it's a huge transformation for the sector. So if we can do that, absolutely the end goal is to reduce our dependence for imports for the natural gas out there. And because of that reason itself, we are also very bullish for CBG. We continue to build our capability and capacity for Center of Excellence for CBG within the company, and continue to make sure how we can refine and make better utilization, both production as well as minimizing the losses and so on and so forth, to make sure we contribute our bit in supporting the whole CBG goals that we have for the country here.
Okay. As CEO of Blue Planet, what do you personally find most inspiring about this company, its mission and accomplishment, according to your experience? And do you plan to go public in future?
So I think where we started our journey with versus where we are today, I think we have made phenomenal progress already. Okay, in terms of both the impact on the ground, in terms of the growth prospects, in terms of our technical capabilities that we have built in-house. What would be interesting for us, what keeps me motivated is scaling up the impact that we have, the positive impact that we have, and being passionate about the work that we are doing, right? That's what keeps us motivated all the time, right? What more can we do? How tweaking one, I mean, once the landfill mining business, again, we are already one of the largest in India, so we don't stop there, right? How we can expand and take these learnings to other countries, right, where they can benefit from what we have already learned, and getting all stakeholders in place, because this is not a one guy win all kind of a game, right? So the more people, structured players, organized ecosystem we can build, the more impact we are able to create together. I think the whole aspect of the positive impact is what is more motivating for me as an individual. In terms of our future plans, of course, IPO can be one, going public might be an option. We'll see, but this sector is a very patient sector. So, right, we need to make sure we are able to make some tangible progress and not make the mistake mistakes that the other people have made in the past, right? Being patient, slow and steady, and make sure we are able to make incremental progress, and then we'll see where life takes us. Maybe IPO is an option, or maybe continue growth into new geographies might be an option, and so multiple things are there on the table. But we are very bullish about the future aspects of us as an organization. There is a lot of attraction that we are seeing from global players in terms of supporting us in our journey that we have seen, and with the kind of commitments that the policy and the government is reforming the sector, we see a huge we see that it's a huge potential in front of us, and we are just scratching the surface. I think the journey is still ahead of us.
Before wrapping up, one last question. Is this sector profitable?
See, profitable, of course. I think we believe in the philosophy of net positive impact, right? So be it triple bottom line, right? So positive impact in terms of the environment that we work in terms of the people that we engage with, and as an organization, right? If you are not able to give returns to your shareholders or to your stakeholders, you can't scale up the business and expand globally, where we can make a much more profound impact. So we need to make sure the whole net positive impact through triple bottom line philosophy will be the ethos of us as an organization. So profit making for our shareholders is important, so that they continue to believe in us and support us in our journey, both for existing and for new investors, to make sure that we have that runway of growth coming along.
Okay. Today we were in conversation with Mr. Prashant Singh. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.